Let's roll here, guys. Buckle up. Okay, test coming up on Thursday. Please remember, Thursday. Tomorrow we start the new unit. Okay, Thursday we're going to start taking this on Go Formative. All right, Thursday. So tomorrow I'm not going to talk about the test at all. I will be here after school today and tomorrow if you guys want to come by for a little extra review. Here's what you can expect. 18 questions, 41 points. All right, 18 questions, 41 points. If we get to it next week, there will be a 4-point take home for constructions. All right, on page 33, I have provided you with all the theorems we've gone over. Those theorems will not be given to you. Again, that is why I need a side view when you take the test, so I know these theorems are not in front of you. The first set of theorems we did the first couple days, which was if I give you a set of parallel lines, what can you tell me? And the second set is if you want to prove parallel lines, what do you got to show? All right, what do you have to show if you have to prove parallel lines? All right, some things I'm going to have you guys add into this review on page 33. First thing I need you to add in is make sure you take an extra look at auxiliary lines from our day one discussion. At the end of day one notes, we talked about what was called auxiliary lines. So let me go through that real quick to review that. You guys had a problem in your notes, and you did a problem for me on the homework assignment that night that dealt with auxiliary lines. All right, so first thing, here you go. I have a set of parallel lines here, and I'm going to add some stuff into there. All right, let me add this in right now. Let's make it a different color here. Let me put that in there. Okay, let's say this angle, let's say this angle is 120. Let's see, and this angle down here, I'll put 150. I'm not too sure if these numbers are going to be nice or not, and I'm going to ask you guys to find that angle in the middle there. Okay. Right now, you can't do anything. Maybe you could fill in some supplementary or maybe some vertical angles, right? You could fill those degrees in. I think we're pretty confident you could do that. All right, 150, 150, 30 next to it because they're linear pairs. But nobody's getting to X right now. Nobody is getting to X. And here's why. These orange rays that I put in there, take a look at this orange ray right here. That's not a transversal. It doesn't go through the bottom parallel line. And the ray down here, this ray right here, that's not a transversal. It doesn't go through the top parallel line. So you can't tell me I've got alternate interior corresponding. All those special angles we've talked about. Right now, you're stuck. So that's why I need to draw in this extra line called an auxiliary line. Preferably, to help you out the best, is you want to put that auxiliary line right through that angle and making sure that it is parallel to the other two. I know mine's a little crooked, but hey, we'll deal with it. All right. Please keep in mind that auxiliary line I just drew in does not bisect angle X. Does not bisect angle X. All right, so where do we go from here? Well, remember at the beginning we said, well, if that was 120, can't you tell me the one next to it is a linear pair, supplementary, 60 degrees? All right, so if that's 60, now I just drew in this extra parallel line. Now that ray is a transversal. Everyone see that ray right there? That orange ray is a transversal. What's the relationship between the 60 and the X now? The 60 and the X are what type of angles? Those are corresponding, and they are congruent. So if that's 60, that piece has got to be 60. Everyone with me? All right, good deal. Let's go down the bottom half of this diagram. All right, that's 150. Couple different ways I could do this, just so I can talk about different angles. Let's say this is 30 now because it's supplementary linear pairs. What type of angle is the 30 and this angle right there between my auxiliary line and the bottom parallel line? What type of angles are those now? Not corresponding, but alternate interior. And alternate interior are congruent. So I can put that angle as 30. Look at the two. Angle X happens to be a right angle, it looks like, just by the numbers I picked. 90 degrees. Okay? Don't be surprised you see one like that Thursday. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up because it has been multiple days since we've talked about auxiliary lines. Guys good? Just wanted to give you a heads up on that. I believe maybe in the review in the book, in the textbook, there might be a question or two where you got to draw in your auxiliary lines. All right, next part. What do we got here? Go ahead, Gideon. What's your question?
So for the auxiliary line, why is that parallel?
What's that? Because I drew it parallel. I drew it parallel on purpose. That's why.
Okay, so we can just say it's parallel?
Yep.
Okay.
Because if I put it outside those two, if I put it out here, like say I just put I'll put it right here, that's not going to help me out too much. All right. The one specific place where it's going to help me out is in between the two parallel lines. And I want it to be parallel so I can use alternate interior and corresponding. So the answer to your question is just because I made it parallel. All right. All right, that's part of the test, right? Part of the test. Another part is those theorems on the index cards. Okay. Emma gave us one earlier on the homework. All right, there's 3 total. So where I have other theorems here, just remind yourself that's your index. Those are the index card theorems, which you will not have available to you. All right, those are your index card theorems. You will need those for one of the 2 proofs, and I'll just go to the proofs right now. You'll need a couple of those theorems for one of the 2 proofs. There are 2 proofs, 5 points each. I will tell you what they are right now. One of them is going to be, hey, I need the index card theorems. The other one will be proving parallel lines. All right, one proof will be proving parallel lines. One proof will have something to do with using 1 or maybe 2 of those theorems from your index cards. And proving parallel lines, I know some of you are just going to cringe at this, but hey, we got to deal with it. Number 7 from your quiz. Was not pretty for some of you. Was not pretty. That is what I'm talking about, a proof similar to that one where you have to prove to me 2 lines are parallel. Okay, I know that one wasn't pretty for some of you. All right, so that's what I'm talking about. 2 proofs. I'm telling you exactly what type of proofs there are. All good? And then, finally, the bulk. A majority of the questions will deal with writing an equation of a line and using your knowledge about parallel lines and their slopes, perpendicular lines and their slopes. Okay? It is not all of the tests. All right, but if you had to ask me, Mr. Carlino, what topic is most represented, it is this topic. All right, that came from the homework over the weekend. All right, a couple things I want to fill in here with you before I take your questions from the quiz. First thing, equations of vertical and horizontal lines I have up here. There will be a few questions that you have a vertical line and you got to figure out what the equation is. You'll have a horizontal line. What's the equation? So real quickly, if you have a vertical line, any vertical line comes in the form x equals a number. If you're doing the slope formula, remember, you will have 0 in your denominator in the bottom of the fraction. If you see 0 like the other night in homework, that means you're dealing with a vertical line. Horizontal line, that'll be y equals just a number for any horizontal line. All right. And then I also have written in here, you might want to write it in too, what do you know about the slopes of parallel lines and what do you know about the slopes of perpendicular lines? I just wanted to refresh your memory there. Parallel lines, same slopes. And perpendicular lines, negative reciprocals for their slopes. And I do want to get to one of those questions before we end today. So there you go, guys. There we go. Anything you want to ask on the review here that I put together for you in your packet? If you guys just flip through the remaining pages there afterwards, you will see a whole bunch of proofs. All right, you will see proofs. And then if you actually want some algebra questions, some slope questions, writing equations of line questions, right at the beginning of your review, you'll see textbook questions we suggest. All right, textbook questions, page 229 and page 232 to 233. At the very end of your packet, if you keep going through, everything is right there in your packet. Do not go to Classroom for anything. We got the answers to the proofs. And then at the very last page, I believe we have the answers and work. Look at us, answers and work to the bookwork. All right, got you covered, guys, got you covered. So if you want to get after it in the review, there's opportunities, but that's your call. Okay, that's your call. All right, so here's how I'm going to start. I'm going to open it up first with anything on the quiz you want me to go over. Anything on the quiz we need to cover.
Number 7.
All right, here we go. Number 7 with this proof. It was brutal. All right. Before I even get to the givens, I look at this proof statement. I need to prove AD is parallel to FB. Guys, I'm trying to prove it. They don't tell me they're parallel. All right, a lot of you guys just said, oh, their alternate interior angles are congruent. No, they're not. They're not congruent unless those lines are parallel, which is not true because I'm asking you to prove that. All right, but what you can do is you could say, all right, if I'm trying to prove these two lines parallel, AD and FB, I do see alternate interior angles with angle ADF and angle DFB. Those are alternate interiors. So if you can get them congruent, those lines would be parallel. But do you understand what I'm saying here, some of you guys that just said they were congruent? They're not congruent unless the lines are parallel. Okay? You need to prove to me some other method why angle ADF and angle DFB are congruent. Do it some other way than saying they're alternate interior, because that's not true. So how did I get them congruent? Here we go, kids. First, they gave me these two lines were parallel, CD and EF. You can find special angles formed by those two, which were angle CDF congruent to angle DFE. Those are alternate interior. Take a look, CDF and DFE. Parallel lines imply alternate interior angles congruent. So these angles right here are congruent. And then I took the two angles in the givens, CDA and EFB, those two right there. I took those two and subtracted them. All right, so I did subtraction next. And I took angle CDF minus CDA. And then I set that equal to DFE minus EFB. And then when you subtract those angles, look what you're left with. The angles I wanted. But it had to be done using subtraction. You could not say these two angles I'm writing down right now were congruent because they're alternate interior. You didn't have the parallel lines for it. You didn't have the parallel lines. Substitution. And then now those angles are equal. Now I know AD is parallel to FB. Congruent, alternate, interior angles imply parallel lines. Okay? That was huge for some of you, is that some of you guys went right away and told me those two angles were congruent. No, they're not on the parallel lines I gave you. Also, I don't know where this whole supplementary thing came into play. There's no 180, there's no two angles that form a straight line in that entire diagram. So I don't know where the supplementary part came from either. You cannot put two of those angles together and get a 180-degree one. So I wasn't too sure where that came from. All right, others on the quiz we want to go over so we don't make the same mistakes twice. Anything on the quiz?
Can we go over number 8?
Okay, the proof. Number 8. 1 was congruent to 2. DCE. All right, again, they're giving me a pair of parallel lines. So I should be able to find alternate interior corresponding. All those special angles we've been talking about all unit long, we should be able to find right now. All right, and those angles would be 2 and B. 2 and B are alternate interior. So are angles 1 and A. Parallel lines imply alternate interior angles congruent. All right, so here's what I have right now. Let me write it off to the side here so we don't get confused. I have 1 congruent to 2. I have 2 congruent to B. And I have 1 congruent to A. I know I wrote on a lot of papers that you needed one more substitution because a lot of you guys just used one substitution. Here's what I'm talking about when you use substitution. Remember our goal. Our goal is to get A congruent to B. So here's what I'm going to ask you. These 3 right here that I've written down, let's pick 2 of them right now. Let's pick 1 congruent to 2 and 1 congruent to A. Do I get A equals B out of those? No. All right. Let's pick another 2, because substitution, you can only use 2 at a time. 2 congruent to B, 1 congruent to A. Is A equal to B based on substitution? No. What I'm trying to show you guys is if you pick 2 of these, you're never going to get A equals B. If you pick 2, because that's what substitution says. You need 2 at a time. You will never get A equals B. That's why you needed to substitute twice. So let me take these 2 right here. 1's congruent to 2. 2's congruent to B. So I could say by substitution, 1 is congruent to B. You cannot pick 2 of these and get A congruent to B. That's not going to happen. You could go for a while. If you pick 2 of them, A equals B will never be a conclusion. All right, now that I just have 1 congruent to B in step 3, oh, okay, I get it. Now for a second time, I could substitute and write A congruent to B. Okay? If you have 3 congruent quantities, all the time you're going to have to substitute twice. There's no way you can get to the conclusion in one substitution. All right? So substitute twice. Anything else on the quiz here? We still got a few minutes. Or are we all good here with the quiz?
Can we do 5?
5. All right, Big Steve. Let me go through all the choice. I think the best way to do this one is to go through the choices and explain why the correct answer was what it was and why the other ones are incorrect. All right, so what's good enough to show that they're parallel? What's good enough? So the choice number 1, CFG, this angle right here, is congruent to FCB. FCB. Why was this the correct answer? What type of angles are those? Those are alternate interior. Okay, I just marked a pair of alternate interior angles congruent. So that's why it was choice 1. Let's go through the other choices that some of you guys may have picked. Choice 2, ABF and BFC. Those two right there. Now, some of you may have said, hey, they're alternate interior. No, they're not. Watch. If I'm going to do alternate interior, ABF should have been matched up with BFG, not BFC. Okay, those are not alternate interior angles. All right, it's ABF and BFG if they were going to be alternate interior, not BFC. All right, next up, choice 3 said EFB and CFB. I don't know what to tell you on that one. I don't even know what the heck those are. Okay, nothing. Okay, for 3. And then CBF, this one right here with GFC. I'm not too sure if you guys thought they were corresponding, but ready? Here's angle CBF. Here's angle CFG. They do not have any lines, no transversals in common. If you're going to tell me they were corresponding, where's your common transversal they have? And you don't have an answer for me. Okay, because one of them has BF and the other one has FC. So they have no common transversal. So that's why 1 was our lone winner. All right. There we go, guys. There's the quiz. So make sure you take a look over your quiz. Don't make the same mistakes twice. There's a slew of practice problems. I don't know how much else I could have given you. You got a ton of proofs, and you guys have a ton of questions in your textbook to try. And I'll be after today and tomorrow. All right. Any last minute comments or questions you guys want to ask before we wrap this up today? Another reminder, we are not talking about the test tomorrow during class. We are starting the new unit. So just keep that in mind and make sure you are ready to go Thursday with that setup I talked about at the beginning of class. Your Chromebook will only be used to take the formative test. All right.
So,
yep.
There are 2 proofs, and then what
Correct.
else?
There's going to be 2 proofs. There's going to be a lot of questions on equations of lines, slopes of parallel lines, slopes of perpendicular lines. It'll be set up your traditional test. There'll be a few multiple choice at the beginning, the 2 proofs at the end, and some where you got to show your own work in the middle. All right, 18 questions total. Any other questions or comments? So my best advice to you guys, if you didn't do well on the quiz, do something about it. Don't throw blame around. Don't make excuses. Figure it out and get the job done Thursday now. All right. Okay. Last reminder, your classroom assignments due by 1 o'clock. Homework assignment last night, due on the classroom by 1 o'clock. All right, if there's no questions, hopefully I'll see some of you guys after school today or tomorrow. Bring all your questions with you. All right, I got a bunch of questions I want to ask you guys too if you show up. So if you don't, good luck on Thursday. All right, no assignment tonight unless you want to study. Tomorrow at the beginning of class, I'll remind you how I want you to set up your test situation for Thursday, and then I'm going to get going with Unit 4, Day 1. All right. Have a good day then, guys. I'll see you guys online tomorrow or after school today.